right, if everybody would look over their minutes, please.
I only have the little camera on though.
Yeah, it's just a little camera, but is the audio working? Okay, good.
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes from last month.
Motion's been made. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Motion made by Steve, seconded by Daniel. Any other questions? All those in favor? Motion carried. Okay, moving on to the financial reports. Sheila.
I know I'm short, but I feel really little in this chair. That's all I'm gonna say. Okay, in front of you, you have two different LAO reports. The one ends March 30th. The other one takes us through the current claim cycle so that we have exact balances to be looking at. As you all are aware, there has been issues with the highway and the cash balances. We are working on them, and we've come up with a little bit of game plan. But right now, they're going to be going from month to month. They do not have a choice as far as what projects, what they decide to do is going to be on a month-to-month basis. We have to reserve their 1176 fund each month for payroll. That's estimated at $50,000. With all of the highway and the flooding that came in this past weekend, the payroll we turned in today was a little over $49,000. So we're at least covered with that. There are other funds that are in the red as well. We will be working on those over the next couple of months, definitely before we make it into budget hearings. If you have any questions, feel free to call. If you're their liaison, get with them. And it doesn't matter which department. I believe Polly will have your liaison list in a few. I can't stress enough, if you have questions or concerns, please, as department heads and council members, ask. Don't wait until it's too late. And that's where we're at with the highway, unfortunately. We're still playing, we're going to play catch up for several months. It's probably going to take a couple of years to really get dug out, and extremely concerned what budgets for next year will be and what the state will approve for funds. You also have in your packets all the claims for the month of March and the first pay period in April. I was going to start giving them to you so you can see what claims are coming through and what people are spending, and kind of keep an eye those versus their cash balances into the projects and following their budgets. Please look at those. If you again have questions, either ask the departments or give us a call. We'll help fill in the blanks as much as we can.
Who are our liaisons for the highway department?
Okay. We had to switch around a little bit on the liaisons because we did it in a hurry, so it was all kind of bunched up. So right now, on the highway department, and I will make copies of this. I didn't make copies for everybody, but I will before everybody leaves. But for the highway department at this time, it's Daniel Browning, Anton, and myself. But that doesn't mean that, we all need to be involved, we all need to be informed. So,
Who was it before?
Burl was on, but we had to move this. And, I may have the old one here.
It was Nick and Burl.
Nick and Burl, yeah. We had to kind of move some people around because there were, after we signed up last meeting, there were several that either had one or there were one or two that didn't have any, so we needed to kind of fill those gaps in.
I do have some questions on claims. Vesties. And I see that you're the Lone Ranger tonight, Sam.
That's fine.
Is anybody else expected to come?
Dave's on his way home from work.
Okay,
He's got chemical stuff on his legs.
I gotcha. All right, well then I'll just ask you, vesties, uniforms, monthly uniforms.
Yeah, it's over.
It's over?
Good.
So we'll, yeah. We're not doing uniforms anymore.
Because on the claims, it's showing every claim cycle, which is every 2 weeks, correct?
Yes.
Is $800 each time.
We're not done.
So, yeah,
We're working with them because they was under an agreement with us, so we're working with them to get out from under agreement. So we're gonna do, I just told them we're not paying for
yeah.
it. It is what it is.
We're gonna get real good about getting out from under stuff.
We're not- yeah.
We have 3 road graders, correct?
That's correct.
And we own 1.
Yes.
Do we lease 2 or 1?
One.
Okay, we're both new at this. If we have 2 that we own, what is the purpose of leasing another? Does it do something crazy like a transformer that we don't know about that the other 2 can't do?
No, it's just to have, they wanted 3 graders, so they have one in each district to do the grading for each district, which makes perfectly good sense. But I'm from the old school. I'm not into the leasing business. I'm not into the payment program stuff. So that kind of answers your question, Joe. Today's the new day to the ball game. Things are gonna hit the fan, they already have. We've got a new approach to the way things are going to be done at the highway department. Because you have a new set of commissioners. And I'm not talking bad about any, we're not, the attorney was there in the meeting. A lot of things came forward in that meeting, and I'm glad that they did. But today's a new ballgame, and I rest assured the taxpayers right now, people don't want to perform the job duties that's required of them, they will not be working for this county. Not under my watch. So we're attacking this, it's a substantial amount of work we got to do, but we're heading it off at the pass. Things are not gonna be done just on a whim, or just because we think it's just a good idea. It's coming to this council, to these commissioners to make a decision. So we're attacking this from a whole new ballgame.
You and I have talked a lot about this stuff, so I'm asking you because you're the only one here, and so everybody else understands too, that where a lot of the problems are. So, you know, we're in agreement that we're done with the leases.
Yeah, I'm not into the leasing part, and I know
road,
that's,
yeah.
some people think it's a good thing to do, some people think it's not. I'm not into that. If we got the cash to buy it, buy it. But we gotta get off the payment program thing.
Yeah, if we're held to the fire every month on a payment, you're paying it to death. I had another one on here. Well, we're gonna talk about that distribution truck later
However you wanna
in
have this.
new business. But, that's what I had in the claims. Anybody else see anything in the claims that really jumps out on them?
Well, the only trouble with the lease, what they've had trouble with before, with not going the lease route, is finding the money up front.
Yeah, well, and I agree with finding money up front too, but you also have to realize that, and it's just my opinion, you know, if you're not willing to network with your other surrounding counties to provide, get their information and what they can do for you, I was surprised at what I found out in the last month about how we need to network with other counties around us. We got trade motives here, that we can do this for them, they can do that for us. That's never been done.
That's correct.
And I'm not gonna go back into the blame game, because the attorney slapped me right square in the mouth when we said we put an end to this. Those are the type of things that's going to be happening. It's the networking with other superintendents, other commissioners, and surrounding counties where we can help each other, instead of thinking, well, we gotta go buy a piece of equipment that we're gonna use 2 months out of the year, 3 months out of the year? What do we have to offer them that they can offer us? Because we simply cannot afford to buy anything.
Correct, we can't afford to buy a couple rocks. You know, that, we'll just talk about that distribution truck right now, if
Why don't we?
if it's appropriate.
Sure.
So we have $300,000
Truck,
purchase, and
$347,000.
it's at the dealership waiting on us.
Yeah.
And that is going to be, I don't know if you're familiar with that truck or not, but I did some research on that truck.
Mhm.
That is gonna be the absolute nicest truck in the entire state. That is nicer than any truck that Milestone owns, any truck that Dave O'Mara or EMB Paving owns. It is the Taj Mahal of trucks. And
It is.
it's insane that it got approved, which was in 22, if I'm not
20
mistaken, 23?
23.
Takes 2 years to build that truck. And we can't afford the rocks that go behind it to put on the road. That's like going out and buying a brand new dump truck because you have a gravel driveway and you need 2 loads a year. It's insane. And there's buyers for that truck. And I think it'd be financially responsible and an absolute necessity that we never take possession of that truck. And we get that either sold to somebody else off that dealership lot, but we have to get away from that.
Well, 2 things, and I respect your issue on that, but it's not the company's truck, it's not their problem to sell the truck for us.
Correct.
It's truck was purchased by Owen County. Owen County needs to be responsible and held accountable for their actions.
But even if we do go ahead and take possession of that truck, we could go right around, turn right around and sell it. It's not, it would, so,
Or if we could do that. I don't think that's the optional thing to do. I think the optional thing to do is help the other counties that need that type of truck, go help them in their counties and let them help up, so we can do a trade-off and utilize the truck for what it's meant for in other counties. There's other counties in need of that truck, you know what I'm saying?
I bet.
I spoke with a commissioner from another county today that said that
Yes.
they would, they would contract to us. Spoke to an individual from a private company that said that they would also contract to us and they would provide the operator. Said, because you can't just throw anybody in it, you have to have an operator.
No. And I think that's where we're gonna have to utilize our networking services with other counties to make it viable for this $347,000 truck.
Yes, and I don't think we would ever contract it enough to ever even break even,
May not,
or even halfway.
and that's something we are checking into.
And if there's, and I'll talk to you afterwards, whatever, but if there is, I think we owe it to Owen County. Tonight, we're gonna listen about a tax abatement, and we're talking about people's tax money, whether we're gonna give them an abatement or not.
I agree.
And we're pissing in the wind $340,000 on a truck we don't need. And shame on the people that signed the order and came to the commissioners and pulled the wool over everybody's eyes and said, we absolutely need this. And I know we've spoke, and
Yes.
my personal opinion is the days of buying anything new has got to be over. You know, there's not a whole lot of people that own businesses in this town, and they can go out and afford a new pickup truck for their business, let alone hundreds of thousands of dollars in equipment. It's just,
And once again,
Unbelievable.
that's the issue the biggest issue that I see is one, communication. It's been non-existent on the county.
or it's been wrong.
Yeah. I'm gonna try to say this the right way, 'cause I'm not politically correct, I don't care whose feelings I hurt, absolutely don't bother me, but what happened in the past with former commissioners, stuff like that, it's not gonna happen right now. So you have to either put your trust in us doing things the right way from here on out, because if you don't, we'll never gain anything. But it's the communication link between Owen County and surrounding counties and stuff like that, it's gonna bring a change. Because we have, I've reached out to 2 or 3 people about this and this and this, and they're like, be more than happy to come help you. Be more than happy to come over and help you. But if you don't ask, you don't know what you don't know. And, I found out, I don't want to get off the subject about the community crossroad grant money today. I was told, and I was told, and I was told, and I was told, that money has to be, we have to have this work done by the end of August.
It's not true.
This work doesn't have to be done until December 31st of January 2026. That buys us a year and 3 months. Now, we can't change the scope of work. If there's 6 roads out there, we have to do 6 roads. But it gives us a year and 3 months to get those roads complete, and it doesn't change our grant money that's coming in 2026. Or we can just give the money back. There's our 2 options. But finding out today, I got the email from the lady. She said, no, you got to the end of 2026 to get these roads done. Opens up a whole new perspective for how we're going to handle the community crossroads grants. I've said up during these meetings, I've told everybody, and I'll tell the public right now, we're not paving nothing. I'm not paving any roads until they're ditched, the culverts put in, the trees are cut back. If we can't do those 3 things, your road will not be paved. I don't care who you are, I don't care where you live. It's not going to happen. So when I got this email from this lady, that opened up a sign of relief. That gives us the time to go out and do these roads properly. And we're gonna do them right, or we're not gonna do them at all. But I agree with you, there's the things that have happened that shouldn't have happened. And attorney and Sheila was in the meeting that we had last week, because we can't really speak about it. There's so many things that I wish the public could know.
Yeah, and from the outside looking in, it seems that if you keep using the same recipe, you're gonna get the same cake at the end of the day. If we don't change a thing, we're gonna be looking like fools in the next year.
Oh, I mean, it's,
I agree.
you know, everybody put it out there, well, okay, we're gonna blame this person. Blame all you want. I got a whole package of people to blame for the county highway mess. And guess what? They don't want to hear it, but it's absolute gospel. So today's a brand new day. And there's going to be new direction, new leadership, and new people watching what goes on and stuff like that. Guaranteed.
Anybody have anything else?
Yes. So Sheila, there's an inside or internal fund 6021 for wheel tax. Can you explain how that's managed? So we get revenue from the state, some kind of a distribution or a certified amount. And then how is that, is that the holding fund that includes not only county but also Gosport and Spencer, right? Kind of like our edit funds. And then we give them their part, you know, Gosport, Spencer get some kind of a distribution from us, and then whatever's left, where does it go from there?
It remains in the cash balance unless you guys use it in
Oh.
there is extra, so.
Okay, so the cash balance that's in there after distribution to the towns is our part, essentially. It doesn't go into a regular fund like Edit did. Okay. And that's something that could also be utilized. You usually don't see that on the radar in our highway discussions. We usually see bridge, local road and street, and then the 2 MVH. But, you know, wheel tax right now is sitting with, 191,000 in there. Well, that could be very helpful to cover some of these bills. And I think that does need to be on materials. There are some limitations, but we've got plenty of bills and plenty of categories to utilize the funds. So I think that's something we need to look into there, not discount that. Yep.
There was a few claims that were for Lincoln Park Stone. This says multiple loads, March 5th through the 27th.
I did see that.
Whenever the county highway works on a vehicle, do they document which vehicle they worked on and what they did to it?
Supposed to be keeping the daily law maintenance law.
Prior to March 5th, if they got a load of stone, did they document which road they put it on and how much tonnage?
They were supposed to, that's one discussions that I had was, are you keeping track of where all this stuff's going?
Supposed to be daily. We turn them down.
Supposed to be daily. So supposed to be.
I was saying it's supposed to be,
You
but
hear what I'm saying?
yes.
You have to
You know what I mean?
document every load of stone that comes in, whatever road it goes to. That's the reason we've created and creating, this is not gonna happen overnight. Everything that comes in that county highway goes somewhere. Bridge, road work, culverts, everything that comes in is considered inventory. I don't care if you go to the quarry to get a load of stone, it's inventory of what's in your truck. That's gotta be documented, that's gotta be documented where it's going. Now, has that all happened in the past? Absolutely, tell you, no. That is a problem. If you don't know where you're taking stuff to, or where you're, how much you're spending on a project, you may overspend that project because you don't know for sure. So that is something, and Dave Risk, man, he's adamant about this. You will tell me how much you spent on that road, and you will show me your documentation. And if you cannot prove to me your documentation, you're fired. That was his exact words, and he means it, and I'll support him 100%. It's the documentation, the communication, and what's that word, cross-training? I've said this over and over last month. The left hand doesn't know what the right hand's doing because the right hand doesn't know what to do. So if the right hand doesn't know what to do, they can't tell the left hand anything because what you're telling them, they don't know what you're telling them. That's what's happening. And the numerous, but we get into that, we don't have to. But Joe, you're right, we're monitoring every stone, every piece of culvert, every tire that comes in. Anything that comes in has got to be documented, where it's going, what's useful.
Also on financial, subject to financial, Fund 5200 for payroll health benefit. I've been noticing that's had a negative number. What's going on with that? Because I know payroll clearing was a big issue for us back a couple years ago, and this is another one of those internal accounts. It shouldn't be negative for too long. It certainly shouldn't be growing negative. So how do we make sure, what's going on with that?
We are working with the insurance company as well as AOD and WOW to make sure that everything is being pulled, because this fund is what is actually pulled from the checks during payroll processing. So again, it's gone up and down depending on what we're looking at. We don't know if it was entered incorrectly into whether WOW or AOD. We have, again, IU is looking into it. Brittany and Vicki with WOW are working with us to try and figure out why there is a shortfall. But obviously, we're taking out more or not taking out enough, or we wouldn't be in the red. So but we are actively looking and working on that.
So it is specifically relating to the payroll deduction part only?
Yes.
No other source of revenue?
No.
So in a perfect situation, the amount we pull in from everybody's checks that's eligible, that's participating, that amount ends up in this fund.
Yes.
That's a positive amount.
Yes.
Then on the expense side, technically, it should be the correct proportion
Should be.
of the total cost relating to the same amount of people that have had their paychecks deducted, right? And then that would be a wash.
It
right?
should be, yeah, pass-through.
And that's way out of line, that type of number. It's one thing if it's $500 or a couple thousand, okay? Because sometimes you have employees that get added and sometimes they get removed, and the timing, and that happens. But for a 116,000 or 90,000 or whatever, that, the only bright spot, I would say, with that is surely then, if this is being overdrawn, then on our other side of this, it's being underdrawn, because we know what our total cost is, and we budget for the entire amount. So there is no odd amount or overage that we should be experiencing. In fact, there should be an underage normally, because we don't have full employment all the time. So I think we really need to get a handle on that and pinpoint where the appropriate amounts need to be.
Anybody else? If not, let's move on to old business. On the jail project update, not a lot to report on that. The RDC still has not set forth a meeting, and hopefully that will be coming in the near future. I did speak with a couple of Tony's colleagues about the BOT, and hopefully when we're ready to move forward, we can have, maybe, do you think that they would be willing to come down and present that, or at least, you know?
Yeah,
I mean,
they'd absolutely be willing to come down and talk about it. and
They were
explain how you
very,
could-
very good to talk to and very informative, so.
Yeah, that's all they do is bond and municipal finance work, and they worked around the state on these issues.
So hopefully in the near future, we'll be able to go forward with that, so.
Was able to visit Carroll County. Did
Yes.
anybody else?
Please.
that's
No,
good.
I was
The
not
flood
able to go.
happened.
Right, right.
Carroll
You wanna
County, yeah, we-
kind of give us an update on that?
How'd that happen? Yeah.
Yeah, so we went up to Carroll County, which is Delphi, Indiana, to visit their jail. They were getting ready to do the switch over to bring over their inmates. And it was nice, doesn't look like a jail from the outside, you could tell that they didn't waste any money there. There was no extras. And it was just exactly what they needed, and after speaking with them, it come in a little bit under what our budget is, and that was lock, stock, and barrel, and I believe they did a bot program on it as well.
Yes.
And they were super happy with the company that built it. It was an Elevatus plan that we have looked at.
I think BW Construction was the construction
What
company.
What's the
I
name of the
believe so.
construction company?
BW,
BW?
I'm pretty sure, because when Ryan and I met with them, and they said that they were working on Carroll County.
Okay.
And I think they're the ones that got Ryan hooked up with.
And I
So-
believe he said that it took, start to finish, 14 months.
Was that the same layout as the one that we went through college?
It's a little bit different, but it's as close to what we're gonna get. There's just like a few little tweaks.
Yeah, it's very similar. Over in the administrative area, they moved different rooms and things like that.
Yeah.
But he spoke with Ryan and told what they would change, if anything, and it looked A1.
Okay, that's good to
You
hear.
know, I'm still in the opinion that I'd still like to see some of our administrative offices get put into that, just because I think that would let us get rid of some of the maintenance on the older properties and buildings and light bill, heat bill, phone bill. If we can start consolidating those kind of places, like, just whoever. You know,
Yeah.
The coroner needs a new place, I think EMA would be a good place to put over in there. I think just trying to get everybody that direction might save us some money on building maintenance in the long run. But using it more than just a jail.
Yeah, I know we had that conversation with the sheriff up there, and they had kicked that idea around too. They said the way that their admin's set up was 100%, for the functionality of the jail and the sheriff's department. And then to add anything, the cost per square foot was just astronomical, because you're adding onto a jail as opposed to just a regular building.
Yeah, kind of customizing.
Well, I think we talked about adding in instead of adding on. So there was places that, okay, maybe extra offices or extra things like that, or where we would use the exterior space is the same, we're adding in.
Certainly.
So I know we're all waiting for whatever the legislative process, does with, whatever SB 1 does with property taxes. So we wanted to kind of know where we were at before we move forward, just to kind of see what we've got to deal with. I'm pretty sure after the end of this legislative session, then we'll start having joint meetings again and see where we're at and move forward.
Yeah, since our last meeting, there's been a lot of development and changes in the legislature, and one of those involves income tax. If you remember, the initial Senate bill was the governor's plan, and it had a pretty ambitious plan for reducing property tax to the point where it would have actually, not retroactively, but it would have basically taken our revenue levels back. And we would have to have immediate cuts to services or, take drastic steps to be able to stay afloat. That was amended out, so that part at least was stabilized. The amended version then worked on limiting new revenue and revenue growth from property tax. So it didn't set you back 2 steps, but it prevented you from moving forward much. So it kind of limited growth. Then the third issue, which is since our last meeting, was the introduction of a whole host of other provisions that deal with business personal property tax, which we'll be talking about during the abatement discussion, as well as a whole new redefinition of how you do income taxes for county government. That has me a little concerned, even though there is a phase-in, because they're going to be eliminating certain sublets, like no more public safety answering point 911 rate, no more, potentially no more jail facility rate. Those kind of things would be phased out, but in turn, you would have a whole nother rate structure that you would adopt. And the hope is that the new rate structure at least allows us to put something together that at least holds what we're doing. I mean, that's at a minimum something we hope happens, but there's so many moving parts and it's very complex and there's a phase in. We're not entirely sure yet where we'll end up. And we're trying to put together a resource that bridges old versus new so that counties can follow the money, follow the rates, and try to match things up as best as possible. But that is still a big unknown at this point. So I'm hoping that once the dust settles a little bit and there's plenty of time to analyze this, we'll be in a better position to revisit. Because jail project's a big commitment. We kind of have a plan now, but if that's turned upside down because of the legislation, we're going to have to take a break and regroup and make sure our finances are still what we think they're going to be in order to pay for the project. So we want to tread lightly here in the coming months until that analysis comes into play. So,
But to go along with that, that's something that, what's that word you sit on, Paul? I can't think of it.
Redevelopment.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You stop thinking about this just a minute. I know the second environmental study came in, correct? That's all you said and done. But you're hitting a good point that you said, Anton, if we have to sit there and wait, do we do the land swap? Do we hold? You do the land swap, the land's yours. Then you're committed. But if the legislation is going to impose something that's going to be catastrophic for us, or maybe not catastrophic, it's going to back us off some, we're going to have to think about that. What
well,
are you gonna do?
I think we'll know a little more just in a few weeks' time. In the next 30 days, I think we'll know more, but it'll be months probably before we really get a finger on. And this is where maybe a regroup with our financial advisor on this, because they're doing their analysis.
Yeah.
And we're not the only county that's having to deal with a potential capital project here with a plan in mind that could be upended. But for now, our current rates are still good. We're still pulling in and saving the money accordingly. That's still to our advantage. There's nothing negative quite yet. But, you kind of hate to approve something that has a loan payment then, where you signed on the bottom line, and then suddenly we have a 10 or 15% drop in revenue. Because, you're still going to have to pay the payment. So there needs to be some pause, I think, on the financial side, at least until we get some new analysis on this bill. So,
Well, I think that's what we're doing. As far as the land swap, since my opinion, we are going to have to do something regarding the jail at some point.
Absolutely.
And, you know better than anybody, Sam.
Yes.
And to avoid a lawsuit, that's gonna have to be done sooner than later. My thing, since there's no money changing hands on the land swap, do that and then see where we're at as far as, you know, the property taxes and everything, so.
Yeah, and I've just asked the question, trying to get you guys' comments on it, because to me, we're gonna have to have land regardless.
Right.
Then we'll just have to build accordingly.
Mm-hmm.
If we lose revenue, then we build accordingly
Mm-hmm.
on the property. So I was wondering, well, what's the holdup for not getting the meeting set?
I keep emailing Craig.
Okay.
I think there's a few questions he has on the environmental study that he's gonna ask. And, but I keep pushing him to set a meeting.
Okay.
I spoke with Craig yesterday, and Craig says the environmental report came back, and there's stuff included that's not even for that piece of property.
Right. So that's what he's,
That's where they're
he's
at on
questioning.
getting that removed, and then ready for it.
That's off the 9 acres that we're talking
Right.
about?
Correct.
Or is it just off the build side?
What I understood is it was off the 9 acres, but I don't know. I don't want to say that for sure.
Okay.
That's a question for Craig.
And also to confirm, just to make sure, you know, assuming that that land swap occurs and that's what we're working with, the cost of putting in the infrastructure is the part of the project cost. I mean,
Right.
that has to be,
Well, I think we've already
yes,
established that.
just want to make sure, yeah. And we know generally what that would cost at the moment, based on current construction costs and things. Okay, okay.
Anybody have any other questions on the jail project or anything to add? Radio project update, does anyone know anything about the radio project
I
update?
think we're at a standstill with that right now.
Okay.
The last meeting that we had in reference the radios, we're getting one thing from a consultant and something different from IPSIC. So I think Chris Lunsford was going over some of the stuff that we had gotten from some of the other people to try to reevaluate and decide which direction we were gonna go.
Okay, that's kind of the last what I had heard, but I didn't know if something had changed.
We
since then.
haven't met again, about any of it with anybody in the last couple of weeks, so.
Okay, thank you. HR position, Sam, is there anything going forward about that?
We need to move forward. I mean, if we'd had an HR position, some of the things that's happened out the county highway would never got passed. I can't emphasize enough that a human resources officer, it's not gonna be a county employee, it's contracted services, which is under the jurisdiction of the commissioners, but, you know, I don't wanna put that out there, just like, well, it's this or this, you know. It is a contracted services, I agree. I think we talked about the $50,000. We're still waiting on some information to come in from surrounding counties, how they do their stuff. If anything is needed, it's human resources officer. Like yesterday, because we've had somebody in place, some of the things that has transpired never transpired without some sort of, I don't know what the word you might want to use for it, ramifications. I mean, some of them have been serious consequences. So I want to move forward with human resources officer. It's going to be a contracted position. You know, we're going to get an adequate job description made up from that company. What's the name of that?
Wagner, I mean, like a contract,
Yeah.
not a job description, but
Well, contract.
services, whatever the services are, yeah. Okay.
And we need to move forward. I'd like to see this done by next month, because we need somebody in there yesterday. I'm rest assured, if we'd had somebody in that position doing that job, things would have happened the way they happened. So, with that being said, we can't use the county attorney, and he's already told me he's not gonna be a human resource officer. We can't, as commissioners, we can't tell our council to be the human resources officer for people. It's not gonna happen.
So for our next meeting, you'll have a proposal for the
yeah.
packet that has the scope of work, the contract from wherever,
Yes,
and a cost estimate,
yes,
and then some kind of plan to pay for it.
yes.
And I think we talked about, you know, we could always reduce some of our legal, for instance, and transfer that. You have some legal, maybe there's some adjustments there, because you wouldn't utilize legal for human resource functions. So it'd be a more efficient use of cost connected with the services. And then we can make some kind of decision or have some kind of discussion on that then.
Yeah,
Okay.
because if you go back to the how it was done in the past, and some of the costs that was initiated for a certain person to do human resources, the billing that we got for that could pay for a lot of the human resources also. Just being straight up, but I'll try to get all you the information by next month so you can look at it and see. I know it is a contracted service by the commissioners, and we can go ahead and do it. But I don't want to go that route. The communication is the link here.
And you have to have money to pay for it, so,
Absolutely.
yes, yeah.
All right. There's nothing further about that. We're going to move on to the public hearing for the tax abatement, Henry Holsters. I hereby open the public hearing.
For Sheila.
Okay. Yes, come on. Come on up.
Come on down.
And I don't know if that's on. You want to turn your microphone on? And I know you pretty much went through your spiel.
Yes, went through the whole presentation last time. Happy to cover any part of it again that you would like, if there are questions. We're making a significant investment in equipment. We are planning to create new jobs. We've actually hired 3 more full-time people since the last meeting because we've seen an increase in demand for some of our products, which is exciting. Those were not the positions we were discussing at the last meeting. Those 2 full-time positions related to this new equipment have not yet been hired, so those are still in the future, which means we're going to be finishing 2025 well over our employment growth goals, which is exciting. Because of the delay and the postponement from last meeting, most of the equipment portions have arrived. We have a lot of them placed on the ground. We are in the middle of calibration and configuration work on the machine. It's not operational, but it is, the big pieces are all here now, which is exciting. They made it across the ocean and nothing got dropped. We are pursuing the project, very excited about it. Polly was able to stop in for a tour last week and see our current facility and meet some of our staff. And I'm always really excited to show anybody from the county government what we're doing because I'm very proud of it. Our team has done a great job and built, I think, a really interesting and creative and productive workplace. And I am excited to continue to invest our dollars and our time here in Owen County. And I think given the changes in manufacturing demand, the recent push for a lot of onshoring, all the different implications of tariffs and supply chain, we are already seeing increased demand and requests for information about potentially moving manufacturing here. We have new projects that have been initiated since the last meeting, onshoring things for certain clients that were sourcing other components overseas, and either lead times have stretched out, prices have increased drastically, or just communication is broken down and they want to move things back to U.S. manufacturing. So we're very excited about that. There's a lot of growth ahead of us, and we're going to need a lot of equipment and many more great people to accomplish it.
I do say it was very impressive, and you did an excellent, informative tour, which we really appreciated. Does anybody have any questions for?
I took the tour. I was very impressed. It was a very good operation. It is high-tech. It's efficient. It's high dollar. And there's an owner of this business that's pretty impressive too, very good at managing and the vision and all that stuff. I don't know if there's nothing to really doubt with any of that stuff that I saw there on site.
Did you say 20, was it 27% of your employees are from Owen County?
I think so. I believe that was the number. I'm not exact.
was thinking that was.
Half of a person is in one county.
When you go to hire,
Yes.
where do you post your job listing?
Most of our best hires have come from word of mouth. We ask our current employees who they know in the area that would be a good fit for our shop and would enjoy working there. We've posted occasionally on LinkedIn and Indeed. We get a variety of quality of applicants. We have hired people who've applied through those sources. It really depends on what we're looking for. As much as possible, if somebody that we already work with well knows this person and says, this was a coworker of mine from my last job and they were great, and they would love to come here, we're very excited to have people that are more of a known quantity come to us.
How many people from Owen County do you have working from Owen County?
I think I have, with the recent hires, I think I just added one from Greene County, one from Owen County. I think that puts us at 8 from Owen County.
Out of how many?
I'm so bad at these numbers. I went through the hiring, so it just changed now. We had another one start just a couple days ago. I believe we're at 28 total. 5 of our employees are remote.
That's good.
What are we talking dollar-wise that we'd be giving them a break on?
So the overall investment is over $1.4 million that Henry Holsters is putting into Owen County.
That's how much your piece of equipment costs, correct?
So this
well,
abatement
that-
covers the piece of equipment and also future investments related to it that have not occurred yet. And our total package for that is around $1.4 million. Our immediate spend on the current piece of equipment is just under $750,000.
Yeah, so how that translates into the value of tax money saved, okay, that's the question that I think Burl's looking at. And it's a little wonky because there's always a delay. You know, by the time you figure this valuation into the mix, normally if it were to be taxed, you know, you're looking at probably 26, pay 27 anyway, okay? And so we have no idea to know what the rate would be, but if it's similar, which I think is for Washington Township, it's like 1.6.
1.5 and change.
1.5 and some change. You do the math on that, and that's the amount there is to be saved, which then the business owner in turn would obviously use to support the production and part of the cost and kind of fold into the mix. So if we look at the math on that, let's see here. So it's about 21,000 or so per year. Is that what you, in your math?
Now you cut.
On the 1.4.
So Anton, are you using the scale though? I mean, year
Yeah,
one
you
being
do.
100%, year 8?
I'm just raw dollars.
Okay.
I'm talking if we didn't, if he put it into service and there was no particular abatement,
Okay.
then you're talking that. Now, the other thing to remember about abatements is it's not, first of all, it's new investment. So if you're abating it, you're not really taking anything away currently, okay? It's not, you're reducing his current valuation, it's future valuation. The second part to this is that you're not getting, there's no money gained by letting it go on the tax roll. There's no money to lose. What it does though is it shifts tax burden to other taxpayers, you know. So if you don't collect as much on business personal property because of an abatement or a write-off or a floor, then the rest of the pool absorbs that.
So you're
So
saying
that's
the
how
rest
that
of the
works.
pool, residential and
Homeowners,
businesses?
farmers, other businesses, it's just the share changes, it just shifts. Now, I don't particularly have anything against abatements, and I think it's a very valuable tool in supporting business owners and fostering growth and all that. The problem that I have is just in the last 30 days, as we alluded to here earlier in our discussion, the state legislature has done quite a number on local units of government with their I don't know if you follow that.
Only some, enough to know that a
Enough
lot
to
of things
be,
happen.
yeah. And so Senate Bill 1 is pretty much going to be signed by the governor if it's not been already. I haven't checked the news today. But what that does is a lot of things for business owners. It is a business owner friendly bill now. It increases the exemption to $1 million for business personal property, and then 2 million after that. Now, you've got more than that anyway. But it increases that amount from 80,000 to 1 million, and then 2 million, which is significant. It eliminates the 30% floor on depreciation over time. So, before it would drop down to 30 and it would never go below that.
Right.
Now it can go to 0 and you're done. So there's things like that come into play. My concern is that from a financial standpoint, with those unknowns, we have no clue what kind of squeeze we're going to be in, or where other taxpayers are going to be ending up in their tax bills, particularly homeowners. I'm a bit fearful with that. I don't like the bill. I think it's a bad thing, but it's going to happen, and we're going to have to live with the consequences. And if you had come in here last year, that would never even enter our minds. We would be, yep, looks good. I mean, in my opinion.
Right, oh, definitely.
If this was next year and we knew more about what was going on and it was doable, I'd say, yep, no problem. But here we are at this horrible moment where you have made an investment or are making an investment, and then the legislature takes crazy action, in my opinion, in changing up the entire system. And I just have no clue where that's going to end up.
There's so much unknown.
So that's what's really troubling me here. And I don't know what the solution is or how that's going to help you out any, but that just concerns me, just to be honest.
I'll double back on your concern there. I'm a small business owner as well, so I understand where he's coming from. He's a private individual that chose to put his business in this community instead of Ellisville or Monroe County. And I told somebody this week that there's two reasons that a lot of people like to venture this way, and one is the small town feel, and the other is the cost of living. And one of those is going away as we speak, is your cost of living over here as we keep increasing our assessments. Property taxes increase every year over here, and in my opinion, this guy is coming here with 28 employees. I know the largest employers in this county have got to be Boston and Cook, but outside of that, he's probably in the top 10. If we're already not receiving that property tax from his business equipment, that goes down another rabbit hole of property taxes theft, in my opinion. Then you're doing a self-service of self-reporting that you bought this piece of equipment. You could have put it in your garage and nobody would ever know. And to go through the mountain of paperwork for a percentage of money that we're going to receive, and as a county council, we're good stewards of the money, but it's apparent that other departments are terrible stewards of the money. And then we're going to sit here and say, we need every penny we get, but we're not controlling how that money's being spent correctly, is a farce to a small business who is doing things correctly and could run a lot of the departments in this county sufficiently. And that's my opinion on it. Obviously, it's going to go to a vote, but you got a company here trying, and that is not a leech on our tax system, and I believe deserves a break on a business piece of equipment.
How many years we talked about this is 8 years?
So the review committee suggested 8 years. There was a request for 10, but after scoring it, the suggestion and recommendation came back with an 8-year abatement.
Sheila, what was, our last abatement was the winery. How many years was that? I could not remember off the top of my head. Do you remember?
5?
I was thinking 5.
180, 60, 40, 21.
Yes. Okay, that makes sense.
And that's another thing that I have that, I mean, most of your equipment is depreciable between 5 and 7 years. So an 8-year abatement to me is, I mean, I would be more inclined for a 5-year. But, and I'm mirror Anton's thoughts as well. I mean, that's the only thing, because like I said, I was super impressed with your operation, and like Anton said a year ago, I would have absolutely been on board. It's just all of the unknowns and, you know, the unsettledness that we have looking at us at the time.
And you're anxious, obviously, to get this thing in operation.
Right.
It
It's
kind of
sitting there
needed to be
looking at it.
yesterday, but yes. And because if, for instance, it was still on order, it was on the way, it might be another 6 months, I'd say postpone this for a couple months. Let's see
Yes.
what the legislation says. Let's get an analysis on this. You could consult on it as well, just to make sure. But here we are at the moment is the issue. I mean, we have to make a decision.
And this is a relatively slow-moving process. We initiated the process of beginning to spec and quote this machine a year ago, and had to put in our purchase order and pay a $100,000 deposit on it
Get it
6
rolling.
months ago.
Get it rolling, yeah.
And these are slow-moving pieces. Even the process of applying for this abatement has included thousands of dollars in attorney's fees and travel of attorneys from Indianapolis to here and multiple committee meetings. It's been a complicated process, which is the first time for us. We've never done it before. I appreciate the frustration about the regulatory uncertainty. I don't appreciate regulatory uncertainty either.
Yeah.
I feel we've done everything we possibly could to be helpful and conform to the process. I would be bummed if we happen to just get stuck in the crosswalk and get hit by a bus because of that Senate bill in this case.
And what about a more aggressive, not aggressive as in dollars, but as far as the timeline? Like you were mentioning 5 years. I mean, is there, question for our attorney, is there, how much latitude does the fiscal body have in a decision about an abatement as far as the years? I mean, they recommended 10 originally, now it's 8. We've got a 5 discussion here. You know, if you pick 3, 5, 8, I mean, how does that come together? Is that pretty flexible?
I think it's fairly flexible. I would want to go back and take a quick look at the statutes, I can do your comment. But ultimately, it is the council's decision. It is the council that makes the decision about whether to provide the abatement or not. Obviously, you get the recommendations from others, the suggestion being maybe it'd be an 8-year, but ultimately it's your decision.
So we could shorten it and still provide some relief.
That's right, and we say that in the minutes.
Yeah, I saw your small print there.
You can
Yeah.
deviate from this criteria,
Right.
it's just a starting point. I mean,
Right.
if you were to choose a different amount of years for the abatement, what that does is that just changes the schedule.
And the reason why I say this is because I really hate it to be so hot and cold. I would be willing to come up with some kind of a bridge here at best, because 8 is a long time, especially with it maybe going away anyway. So it might even be part moot by the time you get into those later years. But if you were to provide some kind of relief because of the investment that's being made and the good faith effort, and we want to be fair, and we know that there's some uncertainty here, is having a more aggressive time period, a phase out, and I'm just throwing this out, 2 years, 3 years, which you could do, 100%, maybe 66, 33, something like that, which would at least give him some kind of a break, at least putting him into 28, 29 by the time some real money starts becoming due. That's better than nothing at all, which I would hate to see. And yet, by then, it'd probably be phased out anyway, because that's the direction they're heading long-term, is eliminating business personal property entirely. I mean, that's the direction, that's the policy direction.
It would be amazing to see. I doubt we ever
I hope it
actually get
happens.
there.
I hope it happens.
I mean,
I'm different than Anton on this, because I want that stuff to go away, because I don't like it. I don't like taxes. I'm with Joe on this. I think property tax is theft. So I would like to see if we, to be fair, and put you in line with what we've already done to other companies. The 5-year, 180, 60, 40, 20 worked out really good.
Okay.
It's what we've already done. It worked. I like that system. And I think 8 years is probably too long. And I hope that SB1 passes and you don't have to pay that stuff ever again. So that's my goal. We figure out how to run this with less money. We'll have to figure out how to run it with less money.
We're going to be paying plenty of taxes in plenty of places. As we add
Yeah.
more employees, there's
Yeah.
going to be revenue generated.
There is growth there.
Yeah, and I actually am glad to hear that the tariffs have a positive effect on you. So I
Well,
hope
they
it
have
does more.
some of our costs have gone up 30% on some
Yeah.
materials and things we have to buy, which hasn't been ideal. Since the last meeting, we also started an addition on our building,
Yeah.
which has been being planned since the fall, and we finally have the slab in, and we're adding
And
7,000
that,
square feet.
and that's not being abated, and
Because
that's a
we need
part
room.
of the normal tax of the
Yeah.
property, so,
And that'll increase with square footage.
there you go.
Yeah, for more machines, more people.
So, I would like to make a motion that we pass this abatement on a 5-year plan of 180, 60, 40, 20, 0.
Motion made by Steve, seconded by Daniel.
Is that super helpful for you, a 5-year?
It will. I mean, this is our first go-around with an abatement, and this is also the largest single investment we've ever made. So in a very real way, I'm kind of in uncharted territory here. But certainly, we've consistently grown each year. We're on track to finish this year over last year already. And these investments, particularly in this kind of technology, will enable us to attract highly skilled workers, because, I mean, it's awesome equipment to work with, and nobody likes to work in a machine shop where everyone's got 20-year-old beat-up machines where everything breaks and leaks and sprays hydraulic fluid on you. This is really, really cool equipment, and it's going to help us attract great people, keep them, and pay them very well. But in terms of exactly how it's going to work, we've never had a tax abatement before, and so I'm always trying to scrimp and save every dollar I can and reinvest it into the business. The more of that I can do, the more levers we can pull, the more options we have. When great people become available, we want to be able to hire them immediately and not go, I don't know if I can afford that person right now. So every bit of extra powder we can keep dry means we can seize those opportunities when they come and put them to work immediately.
And we'd like to see you hire people from Owen County.
Yes.
I
Yeah.
do have to make a public announcement that we did get a email objecting this. It's viewable for anybody that wants to look at it and read it, so I have to give that announcement. So are there any other questions?
Yeah, I think it's the best we can do in the situation here, a good happy medium, because a good faith effort was made to apply for this way before Senate Bill 1 anyway.
Yeah.
And things were in motion, but yet it's not gonna put us way out there. It is gonna phase in a little bit more aggressively back onto the tax roll, and by then it might be gone anyway. So, at the end of the day, and it's new money, it's new valuation.
Yeah.
I think that's a good happy medium.
All right, call for a vote. All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion carried.
Awesome.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I saw on the agenda there's public comment. Should I stay for that in case there are questions I need to address?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll stay.
Is there public comment? Well, then you're
Thank
good
you
to
very
go.
Yeah, thank you so
Thank
much.
you. All right, the public hearing for the tax abatement is, do we need, Sheila, before I close this, do we need to, a resolution?
That comes up down in the new business.
Okay, all right. Okay, I hereby close the public hearing for the tax abatement for Henry Holsters. We will not be having a public hearing for additional appropriations because the newspaper, even though Sheila got it in on time, failed to publish that. So we'll have to have those additional appropriations voted on next month.
Right, so this was what would have been our final action for things like election, all of the
Right.
stuff we talked about at the last
Yeah.
meeting. Okay, so that'll just be, I'm gonna make a motion, we postpone that to May in light of the newspaper mistake.
Okay. Motion made by Antrim, is there a second? Seconded by Daniel. Any questions? All those in favor? Motion carried. Okay, new business abatement resolution.
Who seconded that motion?
Daniel.
Daniel.
Thank you. So essentially, we have a draft that's based on the original recommendation. Is that correct?
Yes.
And now that we made a little modification and came up with a little different outcome, that'll obviously need to be modified. And so, but that won't prevent us from taking action today, as long as we identify a new draft. Okay.
And it is only signed by Holly.
Okay.
So when Tony gets it redone, which I think he pretty much already has, to change it to the 5 years, then just include in the motion to have Holly sign it so they can get a copy. And you don't want to have to wait until your May meeting to get it, so.
Right, and there's no particular chart in this draft. It doesn't necessarily need to be a chart, but the breakdown, the 80-20, those steps will be modified. So that's clear in there. So I'm going to go ahead and make a motion that we adopt the resolution contingent on the adjustment that we had voted on previously for 5-year length and the steps 180, 60, 40, 20, and then authorize the president to sign off on that when it's available.
Motion made by Anton, is there a second? Seconded by Steve. Any questions? All those in favor? Motion carried. Okay, commissioner review and request additional appropriation for the highway.
Need all the money we can get.
No,
So like I said, we just, as you well know, we've had, it's very unfortunate, the way things have transpired at the county highway. We're paying 2024 claims out of 2025 money.
Do you want to come up and talk into the microphone?
Not particularly. We just,
I
we
tried.
need to borrow, Sheila's got the fund. We have to borrow $500,000 from the highway fund in order to support paying these claims.
Yeah, and just for clarification, Sam, we're not borrowing anything, we're just doing an appropriation of cash.
Yeah.
Okay. And the other question I had is, you know, a lot of the claims were, some of them were bridge related. And just correct me if I'm wrong, but we're not doing an additional appropriation there because we already budgeted a pretty blanket, large dollar amount out of the bridge fund, and there's not a lot of extra cash.
There's
Is that
not,
right? Okay,
The bridge fund only has $11,000 balance in it right now.
okay,
That, and when the settlement comes in June, that is already committed to one of the vendors to be paid.
okay,
They've agreed to wait until June to get their money.
got it.
So
And we budgeted
that is
anyway,
fine.
so it can be spent, there's no special
Well,
action there.
that is true, but there's a very unfortunate part to this. This was all approved through the past commissioners and stuff, that bridge work could be done until you get your settlement money. The settlement money came in December of last year. The
Right.
bill was supposed to have been paid in January. The bill's not been paid.
Ah.
So now we gotta wait till we get the other settlement to pay the bill. And I don't wanna sit there and beat a dead horse, cause I could all night long. What's happened has happened. There's A, B, C, D, all the way to Z, it should be held accountable, and they're gonna be held accountable for it. The county highway has been a turd for the last 2 years. It's been an uproar. It's been a mess from one end of the ballpark to the next, and everybody knows about it, but ain't no sense talking about it because it's in the past. The fact of it is, you know, the left hand not knowing what the right hand's doing, and this happening, and this happening, and this person saying this, and this person saying that, it caused a lot of conflict and a lot of grief, enough to spread around for everybody. So rest assured, I've had communication with the other two commissioners, and we're putting together a very stern plan for the county highway. There's rules gonna be put in place, and they're gonna be followed. And if they're not followed, they're not being employed here. That's just as simple as it is. People's gotta quit making excuses for not being able to do their job simply because they don't want to do their job. Or this happened, or this happened, this happened. Everybody here that works for the county is a public official. They work for the public. And following your budgets, knowing your cash balances, knowing what's in your line items, saying you don't know that, or I didn't know this, or I didn't know that, the excuses are over. Training's coming, in May. We're gonna have 2 sessions of training. And it's gonna be mandatory by the commissioners, for people to attend this training. And if you don't attend, you won't be employed here. And if you don't learn from the training, you won't be employed here either. You gotta draw the line in the sand somewhere. Because we, at the end of the day, the commissioners, we're accountable for what goes on that county highway. And things happened before I come on, they happened. They're not gonna happen anymore.
So moving forward, the management of the records, we talked about inventory earlier, that's a
Yes.
whole thing in itself, but then also the financial transactions.
Yes.
Because the folks that work at the departmental levels, the front line of managing those transactions, making sure they're legit, making sure they're on record, following the budget, and that they're submitted properly and thorough and complete. And obviously, there was a breakdown, but we have to make good on our obligations to our vendors who do
Absolutely.
work. And we're gonna do that over
Absolutely.
time. And moving forward, you're indicating training and some assistance and reorganization,
A lot.
management is
A
gonna
lot.
be, you're gonna put a lot of work into that moving forward.
To be real honest with you, and I'm not saying this to, being a commissioner is not a 10-hour-a-week job.
Right.
It's gonna require about all my time now to help go out there and facilitate some of these things that's going to happen. Be honest with you, that's unfortunate for me. I can do it. I'm not equipped to do this. Not work full-time as a commissioner to right the wrongs that have transpired by many individuals. But I'm going to, because that's what you elected me for. So there's gonna be things put into place. The attorney knows a lot of them, and Sheila was here in the meeting. Sheila brought up some very good points in that session. And so did the attorney. The blame game's over. You come to work, go to work, and know your job. If you don't know your job, if you need the training, we'll get you trained. But if you get trained and still don't know your job, we don't need you. We're wasting taxpayer resources on what I call weeds.
Yeah, and speaking of resources, because there were a lot of rumors going around about finances and things like that.
Sure.
The one thing that really is static through all of this is the revenue's still gonna be the revenue,
Yes.
and the expense or the budget that we set, still the budget. So, we have to work within those means both ways. There's not gonna be any extra money. So I think, and it sounds to me like everybody's on the same page and
Yeah.
understanding that, if not reducing and cutting back, like Councilman Fry was referring to earlier, because we need to look for ways to save back some money and free up some money to be able to put towards the backlog.
Yes.
So if there's anything you need, of course, let us know.
Well, right now, we're
Yeah.
gonna have to move the money to pay the contractor, because we don't need to owe nobody.
Yeah.
Our bills should be paid. So we gotta pay them tonight. We need that money to pay the bills. But you can rest assured one thing, is I'm sitting here, major changes coming to highway department.
You spoke on the past in the past, and that is true, but if we don't learn from the past, we're liable to repeat it.
Absolutely.
And you spoke on accountability. 3 commissioners signed every one of those claims that left this building last year. And every single one of them was presented by a highway superintendent. Yet there's no accountability on any of that.
Yeah.
Nobody has been brought to the floor in front of the public and said, you did this and you were wrong.
Right.
Why? Why did you do that? Is it, and I spoke to you on that email, it's time for the gloves to come off. It seems in the shadows that somebody knows something about somebody else and they're scared to say it. And it's embarrassing. You talk about Owen County to any other county official in the state, and they know Owen County. There's places that don't want to even bid on our jail project because they know how much of a crapshoot it is.
It is.
And this isn't helping.
And it's just amazing. And obviously, it's not your fault. You just got in here in January,
Well-
and you were elected to come in and fix a problem. But, man, every claim left here, and I've spoke about this in a meeting before. My suggestion is that if there's anything that's over $500, it has to be approved through a commissioner. Not in a commissioner's meeting, but a phone call needs to be made. We're gonna spend over $500. And anytime that a claim is emailed, it should go to the department head, and it should also go to a brand-new email called Owen County Claims at owencounty.in.gov, to where there's two people seeing every claim that comes into this county, to where you say, okay, why was your claim not in this process? I've got it. Why haven't you presented it? Not you per se, but
No, I
the department
understand
head.
what you're saying.
And that holds them accountable as well.
Well, I
That's a little
think-
bit more work on.
Well, the one thing that commissioners have to do too, because we get a stack of claims, and I go through them all.
That's the key. And I'll say that and this is a small county issue in Indiana. I mean, it's because the counties are that are small, like ours, rural, don't have that layer of individuals and staff that focus on that stuff, like, Hamilton County, where they have professionals that follow
Yep.
all this stuff. So it's gonna be a hands-on, regardless, it has to be a hands-on component. And commissioners and the claims process is so vital. That's your opportunity to put the finger on any one item. Now, someone may scream micromanagement, but in a case of a small county, it's not micromanagement. It's a responsibility.
Well,
you know? And that's why,
Yeah.
it's so important for commissioners to take the lead on that and scrutinize
Agreed.
those transactions. Because otherwise, it's just usually a rubber stamp.
Because,
Just, oh yeah, good, yeah,
Yeah.
they were turned in, they must be good. And it happens. It's not just Owen
well,
County.
but
it needs to, we don't want it to be Owen County.
No, we've pulled
So-
claims, and Sheila will attest, and there's gonna be other claims pulled too, that I simply won't pay because I don't have an answer to them.
Right,
Just because they get sent to me on a docket saying we gotta pay them, that doesn't mean anything.
correct.
It means to me you brought up a good point, Joe. We've had a lot of discussion about this. If there's a claim about something and we don't know what it is, you can't approve the claim.
Right.
And if you're spending more money over here on something that you thought you was only spending this much money on, that shortens up your cash balance over here. And the public don't know that, or we don't.
They don't know it either,
We don't.
apparently.
Maybe they don't know.
The department heads don't understand it at all,
And that, when we got down to the meeting, that was a big issue. A major issue that I was really surprised at that. And Sheila, God love her, I'm telling you, she put the nail on the head, she dropped the hammer, and I'm proud of her for I can't say what she did, but I'm proud of her because it absolutely said that this, and this was not followed. It's not one person's fault. People are gonna sit here and phone call me to death. Why'd you reinstate Greg Melton as a highway superintendent? You should have fired him. Okay? I had a choice to do one or two things. We had several choices to make. But rest assured, I've got it narrowed down now to this package. And that package will follow the rule of law. If you don't, McDonald's is hiring. That's it, that's the bottom line. We're gonna be held accountable.
Well, in terms of the item in front of us, I'm gonna make a motion that we proceed in advertising up to $500,000 from Fund 1173's cash balance to be considered for our May meeting.
Yes.
Motion been made by Anton, is there a second? Second by Daniel. So my question is, on this 500,000, that's just going to pay a portion of what we owe vendors, is that correct?
Probably the biggest part of it. Cause some of the bridge money, go ahead, did you say?
So you started out at the 4 million. Claim period before last, 403,000 was paid. Current claims that are coming in will pay a portion. That leaves about $480,000 balance that is due right now for what is known. We still have bills coming in or vendors saying this and this is due, but this will do a big majority of that, or at least to get caught up with the vendors. It's not going to leave any extra money. You only have 55,000 in your 1176 fund. That has to last for a whole month until the next settlement comes in. Again, there's only 11,000 in your bridge fund, and that's already committed to go with the 200,000 that's estimated to come in your June settlement. Your 1173 fund is the only one that the cash balance will build on. You have 688,000 in there right now, and you take this, the difference of that, plus your 138,000 that is expected any day to go in there. That's your only few $100,000 to work with for any projects and anything going on, and that is the restricted fund. So you can't just use that for this, that, or the other. We might have to do, and once you put money in 1173, you can't take it back out of there. It can't go, it can't revert back to 76.
That's correct.
So the 138,000, give or take, that comes in each month in your 1176 fund, because it's a monthly thing, you have to allow for at least 3 payroll cycles to come out of that. So there will not be a cash balance built back up in 76 until we can get the vendors paid off and move forward with little projects. There is nothing big that can be done. As Sam was saying with the crossings grant, those will be able to, you can do your ditching and your tree cutting and those kinds of things, but you're also talking those little amounts of money you have are not gonna last long when you're having to buy fuel and Lord forbid that another flood or anything comes along anytime soon, because it'll be gone. And do I feel that Greg is committed to trying to move forward and get things straight? He's already asking for appointments and sit down and explain. I think in moving forward, absolutely. But the council and the commissioners need to realize this is a moving target, and your monies, when they're gone, they're gone. And your numbers are gonna change every 2 weeks. I'll do my best to keep everything out so everybody knows where we're at and what you're doing. But if it wasn't for the crossings grant this year, there would be absolutely nothing done in this county.
Well, and
We're a year behind now.
Yes.
And to make that statement, it's very unfortunate for the taxpayers, but there's no bridge projects. We're done. We can't do no bridge work this year. The community crossing grant stuff we'll do. There's other things that we can do. There's other things that we can do as the county to prepare ourselves for the roads ahead. Now, ditching, tree cutting, culverts and stuff like, we can go ahead and do that. We have the manpower. We're getting some people from other counties saying, I got a piece of equipment, I come over and help you. So we're gonna have to utilize their help in order to get this done. Hole patching, we can do hole patching and stuff like that. As far as bridge work, any other people's roads work, blacktop and stuff like that, not gonna happen.
This says, back to that distribution truck, that it's a lease.
It is.
Holy moly.
It's a 5-year lease, $75,000 a year. Yeah, give or take, I don't know.
Yeah, that's,
exactly.
and we'll talk more about that after this meeting, but in my opinion, we have to do everything in our wheelhouse to not absorb that.
We gotta figure out exactly what's gonna cost us.
Yeah, because if it costs us $20,000, it's a heck of a lot better than $337,000. If it costs us 20 to get rid of it, you know what I mean?
I agree with you, it's a massive expense.
All right, so there was a motion for the 500,000 to advertise. Who seconded that?
Jim.
I call for a vote,
All right, all those in favor? Motion carried.
Anything else?
Thank you
Well,
for your work.
The
Yep.
sooner we can get
Yep.
these vendors paid, the better. I'm just mortified we've had so many that have had, that we owe money to from last year. It's just unacceptable.
It's not just last year. You can take this all the way back to 2019 if you want to. We'll take it all the way back far, but we're not going to because there's no use.
Yeah,
The
you're
wheels-
right, it's.
The wheels put in place now to make a motion, to make the change. I could bring up stuff in 2019, 20, 20, 21, 22, the same situation. But we're changing gears, the wheels of motion to correct it, or start it today.
Yeah.
It's going to happen.
Yeah, it stinks that we owe these vendors that, but there's a handful you can point out that we should never owed them anyway, we should never have used them.
And thanks to the vendors, if anybody's listening, to working with us.
Yeah.
Right, exactly.
There have been some awfully
To say,
patient.
hey, you know what, defer a
Legitimate,
payment here or
yeah.
there, and so on and so forth, but we're not gonna get in this we're not gonna get in this situation.
Because they don't have to do that, but yeah, I'm very appreciative that they have.
Absolutely.
All right, moving on to salary ordinance confirmation summaries.
Before we consider that, we do have to take a separate action on the assessor. He is not designating a chief deputy right now. He's got 3 full-time individuals. Normally, one would be in a chief deputy position, the other 2 would be regular deputies. But at this time, he's not doing that. So what we need to do, because they're all filled, we need to temporarily vacate the chief deputy position and then temporarily create a regular deputy position in its place. And then at whatever point he is ready to designate, we would reverse that, go back on the record and have a normal chief deputy and so on. So I'm going to make a motion that we temporarily vacate chief deputy assessor position and replace that with a temporary regular deputy position.
Motion made by Anton, is there a second? Seconded by Daniel. All those in favor? Motion carried.
Anton, on the story of the assessor, are you familiar with Tyler Technologies?
Yes, yeah. They're a vendor for
So
assessment work.
currently, and I've had this discussion with Dusty, and he knows I was gonna talk about it tonight, we have 3 employees in the assessor's office, plus the assessor, so 4. Yet we are paying a company $10,300 a month to do our assessments for us. The one that I seen done had license plates from Monroe County on it. And I told him I was gonna bring this up, that he explained it's a system. Were you aware of that, Nick? Were you aware? Yeah, it's a system that they're using right now to do some of their new construction and things like that. But since 2015, we've paid Tyler Technologies $1,052,000 to do tax assessments in this county, and I can guarantee you the assessments haven't went down. So I think that needs put out there because not everybody in the public knows, not everybody in this room knew that.
Yeah, Tyler Technologies does work in most all counties, multi-state. They are not a replacement. So if you think about staff, you still have to have staff. There's a balance. And depending on what the county's contract, there could be a greater scope of work, for instance, that's contracted out, and then a lesser reliance on in-house or vice versa. So the key there is what's the balance, what are you trying to accomplish, and what is the most efficient way to do that? How many staff versus contracting? And sometimes they'll specialize in certain types of things, like you mentioned, new construction or commercial, because we just don't have, our county doesn't have, relatively speaking, a lot of commercial compared to something like a Monroe or a Hamilton. So they have staff in-house that specialize in that they hire, and they do that stuff. But for a small county, you may not have a high enough workload for a new full-time person, so you contract it out. So it's going to boil down to that agreement, what they're supposed to provide. Is it worth the money? Is the balance with staff correct? And that's something the commissioners would ultimately need to sign off on, so.
Yeah, it was signed off in 2022, comes due again in 2026.
Yeah, so that would be a good opportunity at that point. And I would recommend working with the assessor, of course, through that process. But it's not unusual at all. It's not alarming to me. That is a normal vendor interaction at that point. So, good question, though.
Any other discussion on that?
I'm going to make a motion that we adopt the confirmation summaries for employee changes and allow the president to sign off on those.
Motion made, is there a second? Second by Steve. All those in favor? Motion carried.
And I do have one more wage-related thing that we need to take action on. We had, as a group, had approved reorganization for the sheriff's department and how they structure deputies. And if you remember, we had gotten a new analysis, set new wage levels, and put that all into motion. One of the large parts to that, as far as paying for it, was moving the jail commander positions funding out of 1170 and into jail housing, okay? That was going to be about $107,583 total shift. We haven't yet done the appropriation for that, because right now the jail housing budget, I believe, is $30,000 from our budget hearings. So what we need to do is add the appropriate line items to cover the cost of that position out of jail housing. And then that way Sheila can then pay for it out of that fund. So I'm going to make a motion that we advertise $107,583 out of Fund 4906 jail housing for the following breakdowns. Regular salary is $82,934. FICA is $6,345. PERF is $9,289. And I did confirm, Sheila, that the health benefit is in that total. And that's a health line item for $9,015. And that totals the $107,583 that we had already reviewed and approved back in December.
Motion made by Anton, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Steve. Any questions on that? All those in favor? All those opposed? Or opposed or in favor? Okay. Motion carried.
And as far as just on that subject, just so for your information, on the other action items, we talked about the increased cost on police retirement. We don't have to take action on that now because it's always delayed about a year. You know, the actual amount we would owe is not really known or figured until the following year. So it's best to just keep that as it is. There's no need to do an additional appropriation there. As far as the additional impact in 1170, that's just going to require transfers at this point because obviously by moving jail commander, then regular wages there dropped or aren't used, and so that's what frees up the money to cover the higher wages for the regular deputies, okay? So we don't really have to do anything there yet, but maybe at the end of the year we might have to move some money around. Opioid fund, there is a position out of that. Sheila, do we need to do an appropriation as well or change that budget?
That budget was approved with that DARE position officer in it, so it is in.
What about the increased cost, though, that officer will need additional pay?
Yes.
Okay.
Not really.
Okay, so I will make a motion that we also advertise up to $15,000, that's not the exact amount, but up to $15,000 for the opioid fund 1237 for Sheila to do the math on to have the appropriate amount to pay that particular deputy that's in that fund.
Motion made by Anton, is there a second? Second by Daniel. Okay, is this something that's going to be incurred later on in the year, or?
Probably, it's gonna, she's limited at some point as to how much she can pay. It's ideal to match up with the salary ordinance to have the appropriate amount budgeted for, just sooner rather than later, so that she has everything she needs that she can spend out of that fund.
Okay.
But yeah, technically, from a cash flow standpoint, there's plenty of cash. And we're not far enough into the year where we've run out. of the line item. But it is a good idea for her to have a matched limit for the pay line item, the FICA, or not the FICA, FICA, the pay, and I think that's the only two really for him, because he's a regular
Okay.
deputy, yeah. So up to 15, I think it's, the actual is like 13 and some change or something, but since I don't have that figure in front of me, I think advertising it at least for that amount would put it on our docket for the May meeting.
Okay. All right, all those in favor? Any opposed? Okay. Motion carried.
Thank you very much.
Okay. All right, on to elected officials and department head comments.
Oh, one thing, the work on the dome, the people that putting up the scaffolding, they've been removed from the project, they're no longer allowed on the project. We'll be getting new group of people,
For the scaffolding?
yes. Unprofessionalism, to say the least, I'll leave it at that, they've been removed from the job site.
Okay.
They'll not be there.
Any other elected officials or department heads?
We have a new 911 director who's with us. I didn't know if she wanted to introduce herself or we wanted to say something. We'll give you, an hour speech? Is that all right?
I'll make it quick. Hi, I'm Ashley, I'm the new 911 director. I have 13 years in 911 before coming here, so please feel free. Anton's gonna come sit with us this weekend. If anybody else is interested in coming into the 911 center, please get a hold of me. I'm more than happy to set up a time for you guys to come in, educate you on what we do. Unfortunately, we're like the redheaded stepchild of the emergency services, so please feel free to come by. But I haven't quite gotten fired yet, so.
Thank you, Ashley.
Welcome.
She did remind me though when I got here that this is 911, what's it called?
This is dispatcher.
Telecommunicators,
yes.
For good timing, right?
Bring snacks, yeah.
She said if my wife wasn't doing anything, maybe I should send my wife a medicine, she said.
It says awesome cookies.
Yeah, she'll send me something.
Yeah, Sam usually fries up ribeye steaks for all the dispatchers every day of the week, so.
All right, on to public comment. Is there any, yes?
Yeah, Sam's been diplomatic, and I know the new board members are bringing new leadership to what they're doing. But my question to this group is, when a board of commissioners indiscriminately spends in excess of their budgets, how do you hold them accountable for it? I mean, we're talking about a $300,000 piece of equipment that was contracted in '23 for delivery in '24, to be paid out in '25, that the only means to be able to pay it is to engage in a lease that won't be started until '26. It seems to me that the ability to say nobody is responsible doesn't, as a taxpayer, hold up. If the commissioners, you cannot be out of money in the month of April and still paying the prior year's bills without having well overspent what was budgeted and appropriated. And as an independent body, how do you control that?
That's a good question, because I think my problem was when we have been approached, I have found that the whole story's not exactly been told to us, and if you're not, I mean, we as 7 council members sitting up here are not going to be experts in the highway department, EMS, 911. We have to kind of rely that we're being told the entire truth, and I'm not saying anybody has lied, but there's been things that have been left out, and to make a uniformed and a informed decision, I think there's been a lot of facts that we've not been privy to, that it's a reality check for me, because no more am I going to just sit and listen. We're gonna do our due diligence, and we're going to, if I have to come out and become an expert at the highway department and find out what's going on, if that is what we need to do to make more informed decisions, and that's what we're gonna do.
I would encourage that no is sometimes a good answer.
Or even wait,
And,
wait.
and that, I've sat here from 2019 in various assorted meetings at the commissioner's level and here in the council, as one emergency would get created after another. Okay? We would say, we really, really, really want and need this, and we got money over here. And then that would be assigned to that, forgetting what it was originally for. And then later, when that original purpose is really, really, really important, we got money over here. And if you don't watch the shell, it's hard to tell where the P is in the thing.
Well, and also, when they would come, in this instance, come and ask for additional appropriations, and, we ask what is your cash balance, not knowing there is over $1 million in outstanding invoices that we had no knowledge of.
And I'll just, it was about a 1.5-year process to get some of the money that fell on our heads from ARP committed to taking care of a $500,000 overdrawn GL account from the highway department. It didn't happen until about the 1st of 24. Okay, that's cleared off, and by the first quarter of 25, it's just new numbers.
Yeah.
Okay, there has to be a way to control the board by exercising the fiscal discipline of this body, okay? Or else, this is something that is never going to remedy itself in this county. And, you can tell I'm frustrated by it. I think the independent function, just like there's an independent treasurer's office from the auditor's office, the state set it up that way. I think the independence of this body has to be exercised at a level that it hasn't been in the past to keep in check, if that board of commissioners is running wild on spending.
I agree.
I wonder that myself, because, this $500,000 that's coming through is, well, we owe that bill, but if we don't stop the bills, we're gonna be here in 3 more months giving them more.
Well, and that's
And
the frustrating
I'm
part.
honestly frustrated that a board of commissioners from 2 years ago is binding this board with decisions and expenditures that got made.
Well, and I appreciate where you're coming from. It kind of hamstrings us to a certain point that we can't do what we need to be doing for the taxpayers.
Right,
And
So far, every month this year, we've had a surprise every month.
right. And there's
Well,
We
always,
gotta clean up the mess, but we can
But
do
please,
it.
and I hope you understand from what you just said right there. Don't go in shell shock if I come up with another surprise. Now, I'm hoping that's not the case, but, I agree with what you're saying, sir, because the accountability has never been there. The checks and balances from the get-go has never been put in place, and that's the reason the Board of Commissioners now, we have to look at those claims. A claim may come across, doesn't mean I'm gonna pay for it. And that trickles down to me looking at that claim, then me picking up the phone and say, what's this for?
Where did X come go?
Where did- There's no, and there's claims and nothing against the officers, my hat's off to Sheila Reeves 100%. But there's times things are turned in to the claim docket that has absolutely no information on it. We spent $1,000 over here for this. That for what?
And I wanna stop you there just a little bit, Sam, because like you said, we spent. Lots of times when it comes to you, and definitely when it comes to us, it's already been spent. And then we go into owing these businesses, these companies, that it's not their fault.
But then here comes checkmate. Here's where the checkmate comes into place. I get a claim, I don't know what it is. You spent this money without authorization, checkmate, you're toast.
Right.
Did we ever
And then-
find out who approved Evergreen?
Oh, yeah, there's another long-winded story in itself that we could go into the woods about. That it happened through the commissioners and stuff like that. It should have been Asphalt Solutions, then they couldn't do the job. Next thing you know, it went to Evergreen, and it's supposed to be paid out of ARPA money.
ARPA money got spent several times.
Yeah.
And that's what, and I allude to there is we buy a truck in 23 and it's not being deducted from our cash balance, and 24 comes and surprise, we didn't delete that out of our budget and we thought it was in there. And previously to January 1st, commissioners would be like, do you have the money? Yes. And they would trust it. And this is not the first time. This has happened twice in 4 years.
And when you order something like that at $200,000 to $347,000, and you order that truck, and it's coming, you need to deduct that $347,000 out of your cash balance.
That
Very
liability
good
is created when the contract is made, when
But
it
it's-
hit our books.
Right.
But it's no, and I don't want to be a dead horse, and nothing against, man, I get all worked up here. I probably won't have to go home. You do not get work done that you can't pay for.
Exactly.
Right, that's where it starts.
That's it.
Right,
That's
that's
where
where
it
it
starts.
starts.
If we don't have
It
the
should just start
cash in our
at the
cash balance
department level.
and our line items to
Absolutely.
fix something, don't fix it ahead of time, then try to figure out where you're gonna come up with the money at. Because the settlement for CLR that we got in December, if they'd have been paid in January, okay, happy camper. They didn't get paid. Now they're waiting to take our June settlement money, nothing against CLR, but the work was done without the cash.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think sometimes what we're trying to accomplish is run a $25 million business on part-time workers. The commissioners, I believe and have believed since '95, that you should have full-time commissioners. If you have full-time commissioners, there should be no excuse for what happened. And if there was, they'll be voted out the next election.
And I can tell you, I sat in these meetings as a part-time resident, and I could sniff it out. Okay? And there are plenty of other people who would tell you the same thing. So, you know, it is about discipline and fiscal control, and each body staying true to its responsibility. And if that happens, the other one can't deviate.
But did you hear Sam speak earlier that, what did you say, you put 25 hours in this week? And
Well, I'm not arguing if we want to make them full-time and, you know, that, that's fine. But,
what I'm saying is there's so many, it's a complex situation. I sat there for 4 years, and I understand it's a complex situation, and you have to look at those things. I looked at every budget. I ran every 14 days. I ran my 200 miles that I lived in, and I watched my roads. I don't know if the commissioners are doing it now or not, but it takes time. And if they'll put the time in, but how can you ask them to put the time in and not be willing to give them the pay? So it's a catch-22, really.
And I got something I want to propose to the council for temporary, please. I'm sitting by the door so I can exit. The council meets once a month, commissioners meet twice a month. I beg of us, start meeting twice a month for the next few months. Because what happens is things transpire, but we can't do nothing about them for 30 days or maybe 60 days, see what I'm saying? I asked for the council, I don't care who's getting more money, I don't care, I do, allotted for the next few months. Meet twice a month till we get these circumstances worked out, till we get back on the playing field. Because if we don't, sometimes we have to wait too long for things to get happen. In the situation they're in right now, with everybody's eyes on the books and looking at stuff, and we got to stop purchase order, they can't buy nothing. Other than getting some stone, we ain't buying nothing. Other than fuel, let's go to work. I'd like to see the council meet twice a month for the next few months, if you could, till we get our, I mean, the budget hearings is just right around the corner. Thank you. I'm just saying.
If they do, will you give them a ride in that new truck?
Thank you, yes, absolutely.
I got a suggestion with the training. Cannot the council be involved with that as well and help these departments look at their budget numbers?
Well, that's what liaisons are supposed to be doing.
Right, exactly. And that's what they really need the help, not just the highway. There's other departments that are struggling as well. So if liaisons can go and communicate with those department heads or elected officials, it would make it so much easier.
You'd be surprised at the people I talk to that's working in this county as officials that have no idea the difference between a fund and a line item. I've asked that question, and I was shocked. So when it came down to the meeting that we had, there was a whole array of things that opened up that said, look, we're not doing due diligence here, 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 here. It became to a full circle. And I've asked people, do you know the difference? Tell me the difference. I don't know the difference. Do you know what your cash balance is? I'm clueless. That's how come we're in trouble.
Well, I've said all along that I feel like department heads and elected officials ought to have access to allow and be able to get on and see what their balances are.
They do have it.
Why can't you?
So do
And we
they,
can see who's been on it too.
so what, so
Yes.
what's the, are they not, they're just not doing it?
Well, how many, mine gets set up with my own personal computer. I didn't get a county, I'm using my own. And,
We've had challenges, unfortunately. We do have a new IT company. Bring your laptops in, they will get them.
Because I know I've been trying for 5 years to be able to have access to
Well,
Lao.
maybe that is part of this problem, right? Things that can't be seen can't be caught.
Right, and I had, I mean, not naming names, but the prior.
Let's name them.
IT company, I had to track them down. I tried 2 years to try to get them to get me on Lao, on the laptop, and I finally just gave up.
You know, I like to say, no risk it, I'm not saying that, but I was in the clerk's office for 4 years. You could have come into my office any day, I could have told you what my balance was on every line item I had. That's part of doing
What
your
it takes.
job.
And if you go to the clerk's office now, you'll probably find that, but if you
Same.
go into the highway department, you won't.
Diane?
Well, that, you know, from what Sam said, there are a lot of elected officials that do know how
yes,
to read our reports and stay within our budgets, and always have, additional appropriations. My understanding of it is, I come and ask before I spend it.
Before.
Exactly.
Before.
And just like last year, we started running low on supplies for elections. So what did I do?
Mhm.
I called David Shelton in Knox County. He loaned me supplies until I came to you guys. You gave me permission to get $1,500 to buy the stuff. I bought it and paid back what I borrowed from him. I didn't spend money that I didn't have.
And that's the way it should be.
And only when I was out of money did I come and ask for an additional appropriation.
and my hat's off to the elected officials or appointed people that are running their budgets. And people want to pick on the highway, and I know it's because it's a big expense. The highway's not your only department that's got problems. So they need to be sitting there at that table too. Why are you, everybody gets cash ledger. Sheila gives cash ledger to everybody every month. Look at that ledger. What do you see in parentheses that's in red?
There's 10 different accounts.
Okay? Those questions need to be raised by the council and the commissioners as a whole and say, what's going on here? How come you're still in the red? Is this not me? There was one from the highway back clear to September of last year that was in the red. Not one question. Nobody was asked, why are you in the red? So that's why I'm saying the problem is a big circle, but we're gonna rectify the problem. And that's where the communication link between commissioners and council, department heads looking at cash balances. I'm gonna have to spend a lot more time out the county highway, looking at stuff, being with Sheila's office, time that I don't have to spend. But I'm gonna have to do it because other people are not doing what they need to be doing because they don't know what. They simply do not know what they're looking at. They look over here, oh, there's $10,000, let's buy something. Let's spend some. They turn in the claim, like you said, Paul, it's already been spent, it gets to us. We owe somebody. We don't know where it's for, where it's going, and I'm not just talking about the county, the highway. Next thing you know, they come for appropriation. You buy something, you own it. Then we have to be responsible to pay for it. So let's turn the tables. Shut off the buying, and if you buy something that you're not supposed to without authorization, guess what? McDonald's is hiring.
And it comes out of your pocket.
And I'm not just talking about the county highway. I don't want the highway people thinking we're just picking on them.
No.
Because it's not the case. It's by far the case.
Okay.
We got,
Just a couple quick things. So as a business owner, I have a bunch of people in my company who spend money. I don't spend almost any time looking at reports. Every morning, my 3 or 4 key accounts send me a text message at a scheduled time, and they tell me my balances. It's just automatic. I see a balance, this account, this account, this account. Any transaction over $500, I don't have to authorize it. It's not frozen, but I get an alert. Anytime money moves. Any transfer between accounts over $1,000, I have an alert. I'm not good at budgeting, but I just automatically see it anytime money moves.
Right.
Is the claims docket public facing? Yes, okay. I really like Joe's idea of having there be a BCC address where anything that gets submitted has to go there and at least 2 people have to be able to see it. I've never looked at the claims docket. If it's public facing, I'm gonna start paying more attention because I'm really curious to see what claims are getting submitted to the county and when they're getting submitted.
So where do you, if it's public, Sheila, where do you go to see that? The public?
We can put it on the websites, on the Owen County Government Facebook page. Just like I just started giving you guys copies of the claims. They've been available all along. Now it's so that you can catch up and see what's being spent and where. So again, anything is on the website. IT is working on getting us building a better website and being more technical. Really looking forward to that as well, to be able to post things. But anything, you can call and ask anytime for anything. But again, we've been trying to get everything on the webpage, whether it's the auditors or the commissioners or the council. So just
When that invoice or claim comes up, is it going to tell where it went? Again, 2, 3, 4 years ago, I sat in here when everybody was, not this group, but the commissioners were saying, we've got new software out there for tracking all of this stuff. Am I going to be able to see when a dump truck load of gravel supposedly was put on my road? If it's that transparent, you'll get phone calls if it didn't happen.
That'd be pretty cool.
it's not, currently it is not. That is one of the things that we discussed, was to be that technical when the claims come through. So it's available when it's submitted. It's not just to one company for 10 loads of gravel. It is where it's going. If it's a bridge project, it's a road project. And if those come across and be turned into us and it's not all there, it's going right back to the commissioners and where it came from. And it's not just the highway, as Sam was saying. We've got to get a handle, especially if the cuts come from the state level, we're all gonna have to work together on every single fund.
And we also have to understand that, and not every department head, elected official, whatever, is good at budgets. That's not their forte. But you better rest assured, if you got somebody in your department, better know budgets from head to toe.
The job is to get the job done. And, you know, this is why I watch and I listen, and, you know, you got some elected officials that are practically running the day-to-day stuff in their office. Well, if they're doing that, they can't be controlling what needs to go on. And, you know, so there's a lot of stuff here that really needs to be looked at and not talked about anymore, but actually fixed. And, you know, here's what I'm afraid of. You know, when the real estate, property tax thing gets changed, it's gonna be the excuse for jacking up the local income taxes. Okay, well, I'm okay with that if I know it's getting spent well. Okay? And it's when I don't have confidence that it's being spent well that it really irks me. And I can come to these meetings and I can voice my opinion. You don't see me on Facebook. I'll be right here.
That's how you get things done.
Absolutely.
And the other thing I would say, just as a quick comment, this is an observation and I'm done for the evening. It's nice to have an attorney who seems to be doing his attorney role, not speaking on behalf of everybody.
Yeah.
I agree.
You mentioned a report of, you know, an email chain of what happens per week in just per se the highway department. Something easy to do, especially with where we're at with AI and everything. I seen a project that they're working on up in Warsaw, Indiana, where they have AI in a vehicle for the county highway, and it costs $40,000, and they just drive. And it gives you a report on every culvert, every pothole, how wide the road is, where it needs work, and it inventories every single thing.
Can we borrow that equipment?
Yeah, I can see that, yeah. Can we do a trade with the spreader? Yeah.
All right, Sheila.
Just, again, communication, I think, is the key for everybody on both sides of the table, and working with the departments and reaching out and staying on top of it. And I think it's gonna get a little worse before it gets better, but at least we know that there's an end result in moving forward and a better result.
Absolutely.
We do get questions in the auditor's office at times about the liaisons for the different departments. Were you gonna change any of those around?
I've got a copy of it here to give to Sheila.
Okay.
If we could share that back out.
What I was
the
going
latest,
to do is make a copy for everybody, and I'll email it to
That'd
everybody.
be great.
Oh. Yes.
And so I just wanted to say, for those of you who saw the invitation in front of you, we're talking about talking together in full transparency. That's what this invitation is about. It's Radius is coming to Owen County. The Owen County Community Foundation is the one that's bringing them at a request. The public have asked the Community Foundation to put this together. We've had several officials ask if we could put this together. Who is invited is the Town Council, Spencer, the Town Council of Gosport, the Redevelopment Commission, County Council, and the County Commissioners, all for an opportunity to do just what we just talked about tonight, to openly communicate, be transparent, and figure out what we can do together. So that is there in that envelope in front of you.
And I think the more that we can do that, the better, so.
You've got the 2025 district scheduled meeting.
Yeah.
Card in front of you.
Yeah, council update on that, as far as the Association of Indiana Counties district meetings are coming up. Ours is mid-May. It's gonna probably be one of the highest attended set of district meetings, considering all of the legislative work that's been happening. There's a lot of curiosity and concerns and questions about what actually comes out of that. So I would encourage you to sign up for that and attend. It's in Greencastle, so it's not that far away. It's not an overnight or anything that's like very complicated. So hopefully several of us can attend that. The other thing I'll mention along the lines of training, and to answer kind of part of what Brett's concern is, we touched on it during the meeting, training and getting people information and understanding. That's a very important part of the base of having people on that front line understand what they're even doing. That's the first thing you need to do. And there are a lot of training opportunities through the AIC that department heads can take advantage of, including budgeting and finance, human resources, economic development, legal and ethics. Those are all key topics that, for $60 for a 3-hour course or whatever is worth it. We have money in our elected official training fund that's available for some of our elected officials. We can surely spare a few $1,000s out of Riverboat to send some people to training. There's nothing wrong with that, and I think I'd be more than happy to help support that. The National Association has a professional development academy. Now, that's a little more pricey, but they have a 10-week program that anybody in county government can take to work on their professional development, their training, management of employees. There's some valuable things already out there available through these associations that I would encourage folks to look into. And if the commissioners have key staff that they appoint that they feel could benefit from some of this, let's put a proposal together and put some money towards that and get them trained. So anyway, just want to put that out there for you. Yeah.
Okay, council, any more comments?
Make a motion
Motion made to adjourn.
Close.
Seconded.
Great meeting, good points.